Welcome to Points in the Podcast. I'm Elias Schuster. I'm with Matt Rooney, and that's where we are. That's who we are. We're I'm depressed for multiple reasons. I had just had a bad week. I'm not feeling too chipper. You can probably hear it in my
That's
voice.
that's why we only have the one show this week. Eli has been battling something nasty. So
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's in me, and I know it's not COVID, so that's good. But we were gonna do two shows this week. That was the game plan. I did not feel well enough today to sit in front of a microphone for at least 20, 30 minutes. So we'll see how this goes. But then on top of that has been also a very busy week for me. So lucky me, because Zach LaVine, obviously, Matt, trade rumors galore with him. Nothing new in terms of consistent flow of rumors, but a big change, I would say, in the trajectory of these rumors and the legitimacy of a potential
mhm.
trade coming up here. So we're gonna talk about all that on this show. That's probably about it on this show that we'll talk about because I don't really know what else there is with the Chicago Bulls team right now.
You want to talk about
Um,
that epic game we saw on Wednesday night? That classic
we
defensive
can
battle.
talk briefly. It's just I don't want to get
I don't.
too
I
I
don't. I
don't want
was
to get
there. I was there. I
yeah, you
lived
were
it.
at
It
the
was the
game.
worst basketball game I've ever seen in my life. That was it.
Yeah.
We
It
saw the
was
game.
both
Yeah,
teams
I covered the game for you.
both
The
teams
Magic at
shot
least had an excuse. They were tired on the second end of a back-to-back, whatever.
right.
Let's talk Zach LaVine trade rumors. Where's he going?
Yeah, okay. Well, I will say just to start, like you said, Magic Bulls just lost that game. They're at 4-8 now on the season. If you're not caught up, which I can't blame you, they're 4-8 on the season. They're just off a
I
performance
wish I
where
wasn't caught up.
they shot 39.8 from the field. The offense continues to just sputter. In the first half, they scored 33 points. Those were the fewest points that I believe they've scored in a first half since 2021. And it was also the lowest scoring half, obviously, of the season. And yeah, it was 19 turnovers was a season high for them. So, just when you think things can, well, actually, there's no reason to think things can turn around, but ever they right when you think they can't reach a new low with at least how poorly their offense has looked on some nights, they find a way to do it. And it also comes on, the coattails of a Zach LaVine dramatic trade rumor extravaganza. So the team plays Orlando again tonight. We're recording this on Friday, November 17th. So, you might be listening to this over the weekend when they play Miami on Saturday. That's why I don't want to get too much into the game itself. But this is their second in-season tournament game tonight. I think they basically need to win this to have any chance to stay alive.
Kind of
I'd
need to win
probably the
out.
season
Yeah.
tournament. Yeah, they probably need to win out at this point. But this is only their second game. There's two more. So you would have this game here against the Magic, like we said, and then their next one would be against Toronto and Boston after that. Both
Oh,
of
those
those
will go
will,
well.
yeah, both of those will be on the road. So I wrote in Friday's edition of Bullets over at Bleacher Nation that you can go read, bleachernation.com, bleachernation/bulls.com if you want to get right to the Bulls content. Don't even have to do any clicking. That I think this is their best chance to get a win still. In the in-season tournament. Orlando, for as good as they've been to start the year, we did just see them shoot 39% from the field. We did just see them struggle to
Hmm.
keep up, to keep a lead against this Bulls team. So I don't want to discredit the Magic because I think they're a good team. They're a growing team, but it was a reminder that game against Chicago, for as poorly as Chicago played, that Orlando's still a work in progress. So comparing them to Toronto, who always gives Chicago a bunch of fits, and Boston, who's arguably the best team in the league right now, this feels like the best chance for Chicago to get a win. And if you're listening to this weekend and they did not get a win, I'm not going to be surprised. I definitely wouldn't bet money on it, but this would be the chance, I think. So, and also soak it in, folks. This will be the last time we see the red court this year. That just bloody red court that Matt loves.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Looks
All
like
right.
the red wedding in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's intense. It's intense. All right, so Zach LaVine, that's what we're all here for, right? That's why you have your earbuds in. That's what we need to talk about. I'm sure this has been shoved down your throat over the past couple of days for anybody listening, and also kind of for the last year. These rumors have not stopped. There's always been a lot of smoke, and I think that's why it was only a matter of time before that smoke led to a fire. So just to get everybody caught up on where things currently stand. Earlier this week it was November 14th, the Athletics Shams Charania reported alongside Darnell Mayberry, who's the Bulls athletic reporter, that Zach is now open to a trade with the Bulls. So not only are the Bulls open, that's the reports that we've gotten before. We got one in June of this offseason where news came that the Bulls were gauging interest, in Zach LaVine, which was another step in the rumor mill, or whatever you'd say, and leveling up, intensifying the rumors, because before that, it was a lot of stuff from other teams, and this was no, Chicago's making the calls. They're picking up the phone to try to engage teams and see what they would be interested in offering. So that was a big step. That was in June. Then you get to this week again on November 14th, when the Athletic reports that, okay, the Bulls are open to a trade. We kind of already knew that, but Zach's camp now is open to a trade. It wasn't it wasn't a request, right? It wasn't a trade demand, Matt, but this is still them saying they're open to it is the next step. These are the exact type of reports that you get before the all the dominoes fall, I'd say, right? Like this is the type of report you get. Like, okay, the Bulls want to do it. Zach is now open to doing it, and now it's just a waiting game.
Yeah, I mean, like we've said it before. You were just saying it. Like the rumors of Zach have been there for the last couple of years. Like even the first year he signed the contract, rumors are even there that they could be looking on to move on from. But this is the first time that not only did he let it leak that he was interested, but like he pretty much said it himself in the media that he's interested. I mean, he said that
Yeah,
we've been this third time we've run this back and it's not really working. Like something's got to give. So like he's not even when he's talking to KC Johnson or he's talking to Darnell Mayberry, he's not even shooting it down. So I mean, to me, it just feels like his days are numbered, and that's fine. Like he's a good basketball player. It just hasn't really worked here. It's never going to work with him being the number one and being paid like a number one.
right.
And that's okay. Like they gave it a shot. It's not really working. It's time to move on and start that reset. And it's weird that they're still interested in bringing back DeMar, but like, I don't know. Maybe,
It's hard to know how much truth there is to that, because
yeah,
I think maybe, I mean, it's a fear, right? Like we could touch on it real quick, just because all this front office has said, over the course of their tenure thus far has been, we want to win. We want to win now. They've made aggressive moves to try to win now, even though
yeah.
those have failed. So this idea that, they would want to re-sign DeMar, who has been very good the past 2 years. He's not off to a good start this year. And potentially use LaVine to add more win now pieces is terrifying, but sadly not unrealistic. Like
It's not unrealistic at
you
all.
could easily see them try to focus less on future capital or draft capital and focus more on talent that can make an impact, and then re-sign DeMar or something because Vooch is already re-signed. So it's definitely a fear.
That's the wild card for me is that they did go sign Vooch to that deal. And I mean, I guess you could always move on from him too whenever however many days it is you have to wait. I think that hits in January or something like that when they can we move on from him after signing him to a new deal. But yeah, like the Vooch thing makes it seem like they're not ready to give up on this core going or not those two, him and DeMar as a core, going to the playoffs and being a team. It's just I think they're ready to move on from Zach. And like I don't want this to sound like come off like I'm a Zach LaVine hater because I'm not. I acknowledged he's a very good basketball player, but like he's not even the number one here. And we've seen that. Like DeMar, it's kind of become DeMar's team. DeMar doesn't
Yeah, at
trust
times, yeah.
him in end game situations. Billy doesn't trust him in end game situations. Quite honestly, like the whole KC leaking that he's still upset with Billy for benching him last year, like I don't know, that's an ego thing too. That I don't think Zach's ego probably loves being the number two here and then ceding that to DeMar. So like, I just think that both sides can use a nice just reset and refresh and new outlook, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's time for both sides.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it definitely feels like I haven't seen many Bulls fans out there who are, up in
No one's
arms
pining
about
to
this.
keep them.
Yeah, and it's tough because I think, like you said, I have, if anything, I feel like I've been somewhat supportive of him, and I have stuck by his side because a lot of times I don't think that he's necessarily appreciated for what he does well, and a lot of people focus on those things that he does so poorly. But
Mm-hmm.
he is a good basketball player. He's not a number one. I've said that many times. He's just been miscast on the Chicago Bulls team, and they've held him to a higher standard than he should have been held to. The max contract. I mean, at the end of the day, like I stood by that because I'm like, that's just what you have to pay to keep a
Kind of have
player
to
like
do
him.
it. Yeah.
Any team would have had to pay that. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
even if they were like go in free agency, some other team was going to have to give him the max to lure him. Like that's just how the league works. So the money is not even a really big. I mean, it's a factor when you get into trade conversations and talk about what that looks like. But I just mean in terms of when you look at the player he is, I just put the money thing aside because there's plenty of guys. Like you think Jaylen Brown is worth the highest paid contract in NBA history? No, it's just how it works, and that's what we've talked about on the show over the summer. So the money thing I think is always held against him in a way that it shouldn't be. And then as for things like late game decision making and some of his ability to disappear in the clutch over the past couple of years has been that's worthy criticism. But yeah, I think it's not only he has come to a crossroads with the Bulls where it's like it's probably time for him to move on. I think it's just time for obviously a whole new iteration of whatever this
Mm-hmm.
team is, because whatever they did to aggressively build, like you can be as aggressive as you want. And I think there's this idea right now of like, well, they can't blow it up because they just did this 2 years ago. And I'm like, well, at the end of the
That's a
day, if you go
that's a pretty
aggressive,
big sample size. Also,
yeah.
2 years
The
is a big sample size.
Well, yes, it is in the NBA, but also the bigger, the greater you the greater you risk, the harder you're gonna fall, but the
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, like it's just like are the yeah, it's I just think that yes, they risked a lot right away. They added a lot of talent. And so if you have to give up on that after 2 years of it not working, in year three of it now, then like you just have to make that decision. You just have to do it. You can't just keep trying because it's only been 2 years. Like in the NBA, 2 years is a lifetime. A lot can change. So I just think this whole team needs a new identity and a new path forward. And I definitely have concerns that the front office isn't going to take that approach because they're either stubborn or they don't have the ownership, wanting to do that. And it's going to be interesting to see how they approach these trade conversations and when these reports start coming out that include some potential returns, what those potential returns look like. And we could talk a little bit more about that later in the show. But I think what I want to stress first here with Zach LaVine trade stuff is two things. One is one of them we just kind of touched on, but the other one would be they kind of have to wait, right? Like, don't you think, Matt, that they put themselves in a weird position letting this much leak this fast, like 11 games into the season or whatever it was? Because half of the league, and half's exaggerating a little bit, but large majority or a large chunk of assets that would be potentially interesting or easy to move in a trade like this can't even be traded until December 15th.
Yeah, it's weird that they let it come out this soon, because as much as he needs to move on and they need to move on from him, like this isn't happening. I don't like we're not going to wake up on Monday morning and see that Zach LaVine's been traded. I'd be shocked if that happens. I think it's going to need to take some time because if you don't wait until December 15th, you're not doing your due diligence on this. You're not doing you're not going through every option. You're not walking through, you're not waiting on every possible option you have. And when you're trading as an asset as important as Zach LaVine, you owe it to your team, to your organization, fans, all that, to go through every possible offer, every possible situation you can get. And hurrying up to do it now just seems like doing it just to do it to get it over with, which is never a good way to go
Right.
about stuff
Yeah,
in
the
life.
only upside would be, I mean, if most teams have somebody who can't be traded until that time. But if
Hmm.
maybe some smaller team, maybe a rebuilding team of sorts who wants to add an asset and take a jump, like maybe they have some pieces that they can trade and they can get in before other people get in with a big offer.
Hmm.
And so that would be the only situation where maybe it works, where they're just blown away by an offer because a team wants to get in on it before anyone
Before
else
they can
does.
lose out on the bidding,
Yeah,
maybe.
then that's an ideal situation, but I doubt that happens. And so the Bulls shouldn't be even eager to have conversations right now. And we're still almost just a little less than a month away from that date. So that's a lot of games that still have to be played with this
Hmm.
this cloud hanging over the United Center of Zach LaVine's eventually going to be traded. Like that's a lot of leverage you're losing because it's like we know you're going to trade him. Like you're just gonna do it. Like the Bulls can pretend all they want. And these reports have come out, in the middle of all the other reports of like, no, the Bulls value him super highly. No, the Bulls don't want to trade him. And that's 100%. I mean, I can't, I'm not saying reporting this. It's
Hmm.
all speculation, but that to me is 100% like the organization going, oh, well, no. Like I'm trying to save face a little bit
Yeah.
because of all the other stuff that's leaked and deals haven't gotten done. And then they want to try to rise the stock back up. But you can only play that on that somersault, or what is it? Seesaw? Yeah, a seesaw for
Seesaw.
so for so long because eventually teams are going to read right through you, and like we said at the beginning of the show, they're going to know there's smoke here, there's going to be eventually a fire, and then the leverage is going to just slowly go down. And I think the Bulls have just done, the more I think about this, the more upset I am about the way the front office has handled this, which is how most things go with Chicago
Yeah.
sports. And just because it's, you waited to sell, you're going to sell low on the guy. You just are. Like, it's not going to be, I still think the value, and this is, again, we could talk about maybe when we talk about some teams, near the end of the show that could be interested. I think the value is still going to be okay. It's going to be decent. Like, that's the word I'd use. I think they're going to get a decent return. I don't think they're going to get a great return. I don't think it's going to be anything that fans are super thrilled about. But they dug themselves this hole because they waited for the wheels to fall off right away. Then they let it leak this early in the season that
Hmm.
they're interested in trading him again. And then Zach now finally comes out. At least he was helping them out a little by being like, I don't want to go anywhere. I like Chicago. I'm a Bull. I'm going to always rep the Bulls proud. And now they've lost that. They've even, where the next
If
type of
you,
report that comes out is usually just a trade demand,
yeah.
like he hasn't straight up done that. And I don't think he will in this situation, but that's
No, I
like
think
that's
that was his kind of trade demand.
right
What
now.
you
But
said.
that's what I'm saying is that's the step. We're just one step below that now, basically.
Yeah, and if you were ready to do this 11 games into the season, that means
Yes,
you were
this is
ready to do it in
perfect.
the off.
Yes.
It means you're ready to do it in the off season. You don't make that decision over 3 weeks of seeing your team. That means you kind of knew what you had going into this year. You already kind of didn't like it, and you were already pretty ready to move on from Zach. And you should have did that in the offseason. Now, maybe the Beal trade. I know Beal had the no trade clause, so he kind of got to pick his spot. But maybe the return for that scared them off a little bit and thought, well, if that's, yeah, obviously Zach doesn't have that no trade, but like that might be the going market, and maybe that's what teams were trying to sell him on. Maybe the market just wasn't there at the time, but I feel like if they were actively shopping him, we probably would have heard about it. So I don't, but like you don't make this decision 11 games into a year. You just don't. This has been something they've been thinking about for a long time, and now they're ready to do it. But like you said, I think they just might have picked a bad time in terms of maximizing their leverage. I will say we thought that Portland would get next to nothing for Damian Lillard. We thought the Sixers would get next to nothing for James Harden of actual value. Obviously, something had to go back, but like both of those teams made out all right in their moves. Granted, Daryl Morey seems to be really good at just getting absolutely great value out of
Right.
nothing in terms of trade pieces, but like those two deals at least hold out hope that the Bulls can get some sort of future assets back that we're looking at. Like, all right, cool, I can live with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I will see. I think I just have fear about the people who are going to be making the phone calls, and
And that's fair.
because the one big trade that we've seen them make has been a big flop. So
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't know how we just can't. We don't have a large enough sample size to believe in their ability to make a good trade or get a proper
That is
return.
more than fair.
So
More than fair.
honestly, that's more my. I think maybe I tweeted this out. I wrote this at BN. I don't know. My head has been foggy this week, but I know I said it somewhere. Just that I have my issues with this whole situation isn't what LaVine's value is. I think LaVine's value is going to be fine. Like I said, it won't be great, but I just
Hmm.
think that they can get it. There's a fine return out there for him, like one that's suitable and acceptable. But
Yeah.
so that's not a concern for me. The concern is whether or not they can get it, because I just don't know if the guys having the phone calls and having the conversations are going to be able to do that. If they're not, I fear that other front offices are going to take advantage of them.
Yeah, they haven't proven that they can yet.
Right. So the second thing to keep in mind with moving forward, which I kind of already touched on this, so we don't need to labor on it too long, but and I wrote this stuff over in an article in Bleacher Nation, but just the thought of like this can if you move Zach, that's it, right? Like I just want to make it clear. Like if you move Zach, this shouldn't be, which we said at the beginning, let's retool around DeMar. Let's, try to even retool with Vooch or something in the mix. Like, no, you should be then taking phone calls for Alex Caruso, whose
Yeah.
value right now is at a higher level than ever before. And we talked about Alex Caruso on the last show. We gushed about him basically the entire show. Maybe that was 2 shows ago. I don't know. But
hmm
we had a whole show just loving him but then in that same show, we talked about his trade value, right? Because at the end of the day, like as much as we love watching him, as much as he's been such a fun bull and all this stuff, like it doesn't matter if you're not winning, if he's not helping you do that, if he's not helping for the future. So the way he could best help you right now is to sell high on him, because I think
Yeah.
there are so many contending teams that would give you a haul also for his abilities. If you think about a guy like Marcus Smart, who can get a couple of picks or whatever he got in a player or something, like there's they should be doing everything they can if they trade Zach to then get a bidding war going for someone like Alex Caruso.
I will be, and I don't think this will happen, but I will be livid if those two are paired up in a deal together, because you will, if that's the case, you are never going to get fair value back for both of them. And I know it's just, stupid Twitter accounts that don't know much throwing this out, but every day
Right.
you see a new one. It's like Zach LaVine and Alex Caruso for 2 first-round picks and Rui Hachimura. It's like, no, like that's not a thing. And nothing against
Yeah,
Rui
the Lakers
Hachimura.
especially.
He's a
Yeah,
nice player. But I mean, this has been the case for 2 years now. Every national account and every person on Twitter and ESPN has been trying to get Zach LaVine to the Lakers for all the
right.
money they don't want. But
No, but you're 100%
it
right.
can't
You're
be a deal
100%.
together, because you're never going to get fair value. And quite honestly, Alex Caruso's value in terms of his contract, in terms of what he provides, in terms of what a playoff teams are looking for, he's, I don't want to say every bit as valuable as Zach LaVine, but he's pretty darn close.
Yeah, I still think someone like Zach's just going to get you more naturally for the
Yeah.
name and the long term. I think, yeah, Zach's going to get you more. So I think sometimes there is like this conversation among fans and online that's just like, Alex Cruz is more valuable than him, and it's like there's a difference between value in a trade and then like
Yeah.
value on the court, which is weird
hmm
to say, but it is true. And like, so yeah, he's not going to get the same that something like Zach would get, but you're 100% right in like this idea that they can't combine the two it, like unless an offer comes through that really just like knocks me out of this chair. I just can't imagine
Yeah. I don't know who
combining
has
them.
the assets to
Right.
come up with a package,
And then
but
the
yeah.
money is even crazier for someone to match like that.
Yeah.
That's it's even
And then the
that's
money you
crazy.
have to take back for it too from one team. There's probably at least a bad contract or two in
Right, the
there. It's just
goal
not
is,
worth it.
would be taking back 0, like, long-term
Yeah.
salary, so, yeah, it would be tough, but, yeah, I just think you're not doing your best work if you're not just seeing what the market is for both of them, because,
hmm
there are gonna be teams that are interested in both of them, but unlikely, is that team gonna be able to match the amount of assets that it would take to get both of them, unless it's
Yeah.
like the Thunder who wanna go in for both of them, and then they have
That's
a
fine.
ton of
That is a team that
and
is a
that's
team
not gonna
that can.
happen,
That's a
but
team I'll listen to. Yeah.
right. So, or like even there's a case to be made that maybe a team like the Brooklyn Nets, they have a lot of those Durant picks. There's things like that.
hmm
Like they have a lot of some young guys, maybe. But like that's what we're talking about is teams that have like a lot of high upside picks that they would be able to throw. And and
Yeah.
then at that point you're talking like 4 first rounders with young talent, I think, to get those two.
Then we
So
can talk. Yes.
yeah. So yeah, anyone who's throwing them in together on the trade machine, I just don't think it's reasonable. And I also just don't think it would be smart.
hmm I'm with you.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of the Lakers, though, I do want to. So, like, this week, of course, there's been a lot of immediately teams have kind of surfaced as those who would be interested, and the first 3 that were name dropped were the Lakers, Philly, and Miami. So,
All makes sense.
out of those 3, Matt, for you, if like just starting with those 3, what's one that sticks out as probably the most reasonable trade partner?
So I'm looking this up now because I want to see their draft picks and what they still have. I think Miami probably is the one that sticks out to me most, because I think they still have a decent amount of their fairly. I don't want this year's first round pick, because if you trade Zach LaVine there, they're probably going to be more of a deep in the playoffs type team again. But soon enough first round picks, and I'm still intrigued by Tyler Hero as a nice young piece to come back, and then somebody that, well, he's not a building block type of player. He gives the Bulls something they kind of don't really have, and he's a young player that you can, you know, have for the future. And then, yeah, I love their picks, and they're already a team that, you know, was gearing up for a Damian Lillard run, so they have the assets to go out
Right.
and acquire a big player like that. So that's the team that jumps out to me.
Yeah.
I
No,
know,
I
like
would.
I'm not really interested in Lakers spare parts and a 2029 first round pick. Like
Yeah.
I get that that's probably going to be a valuable pick, but like I don't really care. Philly, I mean, Tyrese Maxey is out the window now. He's become there. I mean, he's done what we thought he might, and he's kind of gone from that fun, intriguing young piece to he's number 2 on that team, and he's really good. So he's not getting moved either.
Right.
So for me, it's Miami because I think Tyler Hero's the most intriguing young piece you could get back, and I like their picks. I think I like their pick situation.
Yeah, the tough thing that we always say, right, with Miami picks is they're always good, so you never know how valuable they are. But I would agree with you with Miami, and I think um, the reason why is, you know, even if it wasn't Tyler Hero in the deal, you know, maybe it's 2 first round picks, Jaime Jaquez, and, you know, Nikola Jovic. Like they have a
Sure.
couple of young guys that they could also throw in
Yeah.
on top of the salary filler. Like Kyle Lowry is an easy like expiring deal that you can also throw in. So I think that there's a world where, um, you know, even if the picks aren't the most valuable, you at least are getting that combination of picks and some young prospects to work with. And then if they include Tyler Hero, like, you know, Hero's kind of a mini me for LaVine in some ways. LaVine's more efficient, more explosive athletically, of course, but there's kind of similarities there in what the two of them offer. But
Hmm.
you know, there's worse you can get because Hero is, you know, he is a bucket getter. Every team needs that, you know, needs that lights out shooter, scorer type, and Hero's still a young guy like that, and adding a piece like him wouldn't hurt. But the thing I would say about that also is that Hero's signed long term, and the money isn't cheap either. It's not LaVine
Yeah.
money, but it's not cheap. So you really have to be high upside on what somebody like Hero is going to be able to provide you. I think the
Fair.
Philly side of things isn't terrible, just because if you want picks, if that's like what you're going for, you know, and better and picks that are more high upside, then you
Yeah.
get that in Philly. But you don't. I don't know how many young they have, like Jaden Springer. I don't know if that's, you know, that's not going to do much for you. And then, um, yeah, the young talent side of it's not there because anyone thinking they're going to get Maxey is wrong. That's not
No.
happening.
If
So
this happened a year ago, you could probably hope for that, but
maybe, yeah.
maybe that could be at least a discussion. It still probably doesn't happen, but that ship has very much
And
sailed.
also,
That's their.
I think there's been reports already, and I apologies because I can't remember exactly who it was that have reported this, but I think it's come from multiple sides. Has been that I think it was Keith Pompey over at the Philadelphia Inquirer,
Mhm.
you know, just noted early on, hey, Philly's probably not gonna, you know, jump on this bandwagon just because they want a defensive minded guy. How does LaVine fit next to Maxey, who, you know, they would probably want a more defensive minded shot maker next to Maxey. So, or like a more 3-and-D type guy. So, you know, it's not impossible. I still think there's a world where Philly is showing some interest, but it doesn't seem like he fits exactly the profile of the player that they'd want to add anyway.
Mhm.
But so teams get desperate, so we'll see. The Lakers thing though, which I do want to touch on for a second. I think that there's been a little bit of, you know, obviously, like you said, that's a team that he's been connected to forever, and he continues to be, and everyone online likes to make connections. And I really do
Well,
think
Rich Paul's his agent too, so that's just always going to be there.
right, and I really do think the Lakers will try to make a run at him. Like I think they'll be involved all the way till the end. They always are with these type of guys usually, and so yeah, I think they're gonna hang around, but kind of debunking why their offer isn't the best, which again doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but most offers would have to include, or most likely these fake trade offers, whatever, include D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, and both those guys are not expiring deals. D'Angelo Russell has a player option next year for $18.7 million. My guess would be that he'd pick that up. And
Mhm.
then Rui Hachimura just signed a 3-year, $51 million deal. So you got to
Not cheap.
be, yeah, and that's not cheap. No, it's not for Rui. Like, and no disrespect to Rui, he's played better for the Lakers, but then you're going to put him back in a situation like it was in Washington, where he just, you know, it was a rebuilding situation and he never really got off his feet. He's been better because he's played next to high IQ guys and someone like LeBron James. He's then you're going to send him to Chicago, and it's not going to be the same environment. So I don't know. I just wouldn't want to take on that salary, and it's hard to see a deal getting done without him involved. And
I agree.
then, um, and then I think it was Jovan Buha from The Athletic has already reported that like Austin Reeves wouldn't be thrown into the trade, which I'm not surprised about, but he likely wouldn't be considered someone that the Lakers would want to trade. And that would be a little more interesting for Chicago at least. But I'm not even I like Austin Reeves. I don't know how much there's some people who really like him. I don't know if I'm one of
Yeah.
the guys that are on the really like him train yet, but regardless, he probably would be one of the better assets you can add here. It just seems like the Lakers wouldn't even want to do that. And so then if you're including those salaries though, let's say of Russell and Hachimura, then because that's obviously just salary filler, the real assets that you're getting are that 2029 first round pick or a 2030 first round pick. Not both, because the stipend rule prohibits you from trading back-to-back picks. So they get one of those picks, which are the only available ones that I believe the
I
Lakers
hate
have
that
right
rule.
now. Yeah, you can do a
So
pick swap, I
dumb.
believe, the next year. But then Jalen Hood-Schifino, who from Indiana University, which they drafted number 17 overall in this last draft, and then Max Christie is like a young 20-year-old guard they have from Michigan State. So like two Big Ten guys. They are those would be guys they can dangle like here are some young prospects. But again, you just have to. I don't know how the Bulls feel about those guys. You have to be high on them.
Yeah.
Because it's not like either of them are jaw-dropping prospects. Some teams love Jalen Hood-Schifino. I think some other executives or
Not as much.
scouts were not as much or not as high on him. So it just depends on where the Bulls are if they view that as a great piece back. But yeah, just seeing the Lakers thing coming together, and then you have to add in the fact that Rui and Austin Reeves, those two guys wouldn't even be able to be traded until January 15th.
Yeah.
So I think that like unless you're piecing it together somehow else, like we said, Rui's likely going to have to be in some sort of deal to make it easily work. So
Hmm.
it's just you're waiting even longer, and at that point, I think other teams slide in because they know the Lakers are interested and just try to, they just try
Make
to
a better offer before they can beat them
make a
to
better
it.
offer before the Lakers can really come in and throw the best thing they can do. So I just think the Lakers thing will continue to be a thing for a long time, but through the entire lifespan of whatever this LaVine thing is, I just don't know if that's going to end up being the deal because
Yeah.
the assets
I
aren't great.
just I hope they get creative in the coming weeks, months, whatever. And like you suggested earlier, don't just talk to the Sixers, Lakers, and Heat. Like talk to Sacramento, talk to Oklahoma City, talk to teams of that regard, and see their interests, see what pieces they're willing to move and maybe not willing to move. Like those are the teams that have a lot of picks. Those are the types of teams that might be looking to take that next step and add he's not, I'll call it superstar adjacent talent, all star talent, second tier, whatever you want to call Zach, might be looking to go get those guys and maybe willing to overpay to make sure they actually get them and don't lose them to a team like the Lakers or Sixers. So I hope they do explore those options before December 15th.
Yeah, same. And so yeah, last thing here too to note, because like the Knicks are a team that have always been brought up around Zach.
He just doesn't want to go to New York, it
Yeah, he
seems
doesn't
like.
want to go to New York. So that was a report that was actually that was sent out this summer. Stefan Bondi from at the time he was with the New York Daily News reported that LaVine's camp didn't have interest. Then just this week, now with the New York Post, reported, just reiterated that, but said as recently as this week, got the same information that LaVine's camp doesn't want to go there, and it's not surprising that it hasn't changed because Leon Rose, CAA agent or former head of that agency who now runs the Knicks, they believe that he's partial to those kind of guys. Clutch doesn't want to
Hmm.
work with him, so it's basically just a Clutch thing. Doesn't want to work with them, which that stinks because because they have great assets that I think would be a very suitable trade partner. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. I've said this on this show before, but some people are going to be like, it doesn't matter because the Bulls could trade him wherever they want. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot more to it than that. Why do you think guys end up where they want to go all the time?
Yeah.
Or most of the time. Like Dame still ended up in a great spot in the Milwaukee, even though he didn't get to go to Miami, and that one was
Yeah. And
handled like the worst
that's
from
an
Dame's
agency
side.
too. Like, going forward, if you're the Bulls, it's an agency you don't want to piss off. And if they say they
Yeah,
don't want to deal with New York, they say they don't want to go to New York, and you give them the middle finger, then okay, when it becomes time for free agency, even if it's not one of the big dog free agents, if it's a middle tier free agent that Clutch represents, they're probably going to steer their guy away from you. So like that's another reason why you
And that's
don't.
frustrating, but that's
It
the
is,
real
but like
thing.
that's the game. That is the
Yeah.
game.
So that's why these
And
guys end up going places that they
now,
want to
if you
go.
can work it out, if you might be able to work it out with Clutch and get everybody in a room and kind of make it happen. But like without them at least kind of signing off on it, even without Zach having a no trade, you're not going to do that. You're not going to piss off probably the most important agency in basketball.
Right. Like that's just the game you play. Like if he doesn't want to go there and, it again doesn't mean it's not happening for sure, but if he doesn't want to go there, then it's likely he's not gonna go there. Or if his
Mhm.
agency is that's the report too. It's not just LaVine doesn't want to go there. It's LaVine's camp doesn't want to go. They want him to go there, which means
Yeah,
Clutch doesn't want him to.
doesn't want him to go there.
Yeah, which makes it even harder to see a world where he actually ends up in New York. Okay, last thing I think we could talk about, because look, at the end of the day, we're gonna be talking about Zach for like weeks now, until at least there's probably gonna be a little Zach section on every one of these podcasts.
Until he's
So
gone.
yeah, until he's gone. So we don't need to get into everything right now. I will say that LaVine himself that was a big thing, was how his tone has changed, in the locker room and talking to reporters. Before he would rebuff all rumors, everything. He would just say he was committed to Chicago, and now, yeah, he stands there and, as you said earlier in the show, Matt, like he's basically just saying, he's talking about Chicago, being with Chicago in the past tense in some instances. He's talking about how he had so many great memories here, and
Hmm.
like, how
He's ready.
yeah,
He's ready.
it's just little things that are like, okay. And the big comment, which you brought up, which is like, which I have here in front of me, he said, I'm frustrated we're not winning. He told us, as Jamal Collier of ESPN, I'm frustrated we're not winning. I think if you're not frustrated, then that's a problem. It's nothing more than that. It's just an upsetting thing when you've been trying to do the right thing the last 3 to 4 years, and it seems like we're in the same place. And I think what I would say to that is he's 100% right. I'm not gonna criticize him for a comment like that. I've seen some fans get mad about, Zach wanting out and
He's
some
right.
stuff. I'm
He
not
wasn't
mad
rude
at him.
about it. He wasn't mean. He wasn't rude. He wasn't disrespectful. He was right. He was honest. That's why
Yeah,
I'm being honest.
I'm in no way mad that he wants to go, because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, this team has done nothing to, propel themselves in a positive direction, or like or after they did something, they then sat on their hands and did nothing.
Yeah.
So it's an organizational failure in a lot of ways, and he's not the perfect player by any means. He needs to still improve and learn how to impact winning in certain ways, but at the same time, it's not like all the blame rests on his shoulders at all. The organization is the reason that over these past 3-4 years, they said they were being aggressive. They were going to win now. They have 5 playoff games to show for in the first round, and all of them were basically blowout losses except one where
Yeah.
where they've won one playoff game
Hmm.
since in what, 7 years, 8 years. So it's absurd. All right, that's
Long
where we'll
time.
wrap it up. We'll talk more about, I know we kind of hinted we'll talk about destinations. We'll do that on the next show, more destinations. We talked about 3. There's some other teams out there that I think could potentially get involved. I hinted at one with
Well, I'll give some homework. I think we should each come with
Okay.
a next episode. We've talked about the Heat. We've talked about the Sixers, the Lakers. Let's come with a obscure team not being mentioned, an offer that we like.
Okay.
You
I
put in
like
the
that.
trade machine you
Put it
can
in the
want.
trade
If you
machine.
want, you don't have to. Let's bust
I'll
that
do it.
out. Let's come with an offer whenever we do this next week. Probably, I don't remember when they play next week. At some point after one of their games that they lost by 30, we can ignore that. We can talk about some Zach LaVine trade rumors.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So next week we'll get into some potential fake trades, because who doesn't love fake trade season? And that's what we're gonna do. I am gonna go just blow my nose, lay on the couch, type depressing words about the Bulls, and then watch depressing Bulls basketball, because
I do
that
I
is
do a
my life.
Bull show with you, and I do a Bears show with the Bears
Yeah. I'm
guys.
sorry, man.
And 11 games into this season, we're talking about trading Zach. And 2 games into the Bears season, we were talking about mock drafts and Caleb Williams. So this has been a really, really fun,
Man,
fun
what a life.
Chicago sports fall for me.
What a life. If you want more fun Chicago sports content and more, there's more national news and coverage. It's a little more light, a little more fun, a little more upbeat. Go to
Yeah.
bleachernation.com. There's a lot of fun content there. You can read my work on the Chicago Bulls. You can read Matt's work on a little bit of everything. And there's a lot of good Blackhawks stuff right now. Connor Bedard, baby, he's going strong. That's the only
Great
hope.
time to be a season ticket holder.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll say
nice.
that.
Yeah, that's nice. But that's all we got for this week. We will be back next week. to give you some fake Zach LaVine trades. Have a good weekend, everybody.